This meeting is being recorded by the City Council and GCTV 9. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the person at this, notify the chairperson at this time. All right. How am I supposed to read this? We didn't do this when I was around. Do we have to read that? Okay. In accordance with open meeting law, when a counselor or counselors attend remotely, the chair would need to acknowledge the members of the council/committee who are appearing via remote access and inform the full council committee that all votes will be taken by roll call. Counselors attending remotely are encouraged to have their video on at all times when they're speaking and voting. Can we get a roll call, please?
Counselor Golub?
Here.
Counselor Gordon?
Here.
Counselor Master Totaro?
Here.
Counselor Bullock is not here today. Vice President Gilmore?
Here.
Counselor Perry?
Here.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Here.
Counselor Healy?
Here.
Counselor Garrett?
Here.
Counselor Minhas?
Here.
Counselor Ricketts?
Present.
Counselor Toronto?
I'm here.
President Bottomley is not here. Madam Vice President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and this is voluntary.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
under God, indivisible,
and justice for all. Do we have a motion to approve the June 20th, 2024 City Council meeting minutes?
so moved.
I'll second that.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor, and it's going to have to be a roll call vote.
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Master Totaro?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Counselor Healy?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett?
Yes.
Counselor Counselor Minhas?
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts?
Yes.
Counselor Toronto?
Yep.
Does the Vice President wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So next we have communications from the Superintendent of Schools and School Committee. This is a standing item on our agenda. They are not able to join us tonight, so we're going to move on to communications from the mayor, city officers, and employees. And we're going to start. There we go.
Hi everyone. Just going to give you a few updates from actually 2 months because I didn't get my last things in the 5-day rule. Okay, so we had the fire station grand opening on June 10th. I want to thank the chief and the wonderful fire station building committee and Giorgio's Pizza, who did a great job for offering to cater the festivities afterwards. And I also wanted to recognize the employees of all the fire department, central maintenance, the DPW, and IT, and anyone else that I may have forgotten that saved the city thousands of dollars by actually taking the temporary or large parts of the temporary down. That it saved the city a lot of money for them to do that, so that was really wonderful. So, and they worked very long days when it was pretty hot outside. Take a moment to share my appreciation to Dr. Christine DeBarge, who retired on June 30th, and to congratulate the new superintendent, Karen Patnode, who began as of July 1. Excited to announce the city's hired Stella Chan as our interim finance director. Stella brings years of private sector experience to the position, and she's already making a significant impact since joining our staff at the end of June. Her dynamic energy and innovative thinking have already been a tremendous asset. In procurement, we're still trying to procure a procurement person, and that's a difficult spot to fill because there are very few people that have that certification already, but we've begun interviewing, and I think we have 2 more interviews tomorrow. Recreation, June 14th was the opening of the bocce courts next to Beacon Field, and that's another great recreational amenity. Also, with recreation, I started doing a walking series with recreation. I think our first one will be tomorrow night. I'm doing ones in different parks. I'm also doing ones from the senior center, and the first one I had here, there were like 20-something people that came for a walk, most of whom I didn't actually know, which is nice because a lot of people don't make an appointment to come into the mayor's office, but they just wanted to go for a walk and talk. It was very nice. Let's see, the opioid settlement funds, Greenfield, like many municipalities, is receiving annual funding from the settlement. And I think you have something on for a first reading tonight to move that. I'm not sure whether it's a first reading or if it's going to be voted on tonight to move that from a stabilization fund to a revolving fund, which will make it easier to be accessed once we get that all sorted out. You need to put a committee together, which that is in process, and have some meetings of the committee, and then an open meeting where people can, come up and say if they actually needed that. We are working diligently. We've got a couple of counselors, Councilor Minhas and Councilor Bullock, that offered to serve on that, as well as members of different service organizations, and Anna Altman. And that first meeting hasn't come together, but it's going to come together soon. That will be opioid advisory group. There's a lot of people that I've actually had a couple of social service entities come forward, so it will be good when we can get that rolled out with its guidelines. So that's in process. There's something through the Department of Revenue that there's, and with guidelines, and we're following all of that. Some other recent community events, the Bee Fest was very successful. May 18th, Memorial Day, Chris Demers and our region's Veterans Service always do a remarkable job organizing the ceremonies that honor our military, and this year again, they did a fabulous job. The parade at Cochrane gave beautiful remarks. We had Pride flag raising and parade. June was Pride Month. Both events were a strong testament to our community's inclusive values, and every year there's a bigger and bigger turnout for that. Juneteenth, kudos to Empress Banu, who continues to champion Juneteenth and did a fabulous job again for this year on a very hot day, I might add. And I'm deeply grateful to her for a strong supporting the unity within Greenfield. Independence Day fireworks, July 6th. Recreation again coming to the fore here. That was a wonderful, wonderful day. And Greenfield Public Library just had their 1-year anniversary. And so happy anniversary on the first year. I was able to participate by doing a story hour for the children, and we quickly changed channels. I had books picked out for like 5- and 6-year-olds and looked around, and they were 2, so we went with, where is the green fish? Anyways, what else? I guess that's all I have for updates, but you might have questions. Anything else?
Are there any counselors that have questions for the mayor? Councilor Minos?
Hi, Jenny. How's it going? This isn't on the topics that you had already picked out, but a question that I keep getting asked by constituents is, are there any updates to the Lunt cleanup?
Well, yes, we actually had a meeting today with, I've met before with Councilor Bottomley and and Lyons Wittens from Ojai Engineering, and we actually got something in the email today. I haven't thoroughly read that yet, but I think Lyons was agreeing to, was that the drift of that? Can you take that?
Yeah, we did. We had a meeting about this today, actually, and did receive detailed information from Lyons Wittens regarding the scope of work and what he'd be working on, including some other documentation that we needed as well. So definitely moving forward and quite timely as of today, so.
And then Keith and I met with Athena and Eric, because if there's grant money that's needed for cleanup, we needed to get on that. So we had a wonderful hour and 15-minute meeting on that. And after that, we're going to get another meeting with DEP that they left the room, and they're going to be in touch with Janine about organizing that next. So that's all in process. Sometimes it looks like things don't ever go fast enough, but there's a lot. It takes a lot of steps and time, and just getting this far has been a little bit of a journey, but thank you for asking.
Sarah, yes, Councilor Wondolowski.
Just two things, Mayor. One, I just want to congratulate you also on the murals for Juneteenth. I went on the mural walk, and it was very inspiring, so it was a great event. I'm glad to see that coming to Greenfield. And then on the opioid settlement, I'm really excited that this is going to be an open process and that the community is going to be involved in thinking about where our money should go, especially from folks who are intimately affected by this issue. Can you talk a little bit more about how that process is outlined?
How it's outlined,
Or
or what we've done.
how you
Okay,
think it's gonna happen.
I'm not going to tell you the exact outline because I don't have that in front of me, but I can tell you what we're doing here. We're following the guidelines. I met with Councilor Bullock maybe a couple of months ago. We met with Councilor Bullock, and she had some ideas about, she's read all through the statute, as we all have, but I can't quote whatever it is right now. So she had suggestions about who should be on. Ian Altman is our staff person that has been to the opioid task force meetings. So this is who we've reached out to so far. I think someone from Tapestry Health, someone from Moms Who Care, Sarah is from the Recover Project, Sarah from the Recover Project. The fire chief knew an EMT that he thought would be a great fit for this, and we decided to have two counselors. So the process is, and we want to make it just, we want to make sure that this can get in the hands of people as they need it, so that the process doesn't take forever. But it will be transparent, and they're going to try to have 3 meetings. I think they were trying to get the first one together by July, but it's already July 17th, is that right? And then after this group meets, then there needs to be an open meeting where you might, be inviting anybody that would have any interest in this, because we want to make sure that it could get to whoever needs it, whether it's individuals or, social service organizations or more. But more to follow on that. And Councilor Bullock would be a great person for you to speak with about it. Anything else on that I might have missed?
Yeah, thank you for your work on all of those pieces on LUN and on the opioid settlement fund. I am curious about, we've received some emails from constituents who are concerned about elderly people in their homes having services turned off. And And I can send you, if that's new, I can send you more information. I'd be happy to do that. There's been some emails about that, and so I'm curious if that had come to your attention, and if it hasn't, I can share that with you. If it has, then wondering what provisions are being put into place to give people notice if that's going to happen.
Are you talking about utilities?
Yeah.
Which utility?
So to clarify, this is a guess, but I think that actually related to, at least what happened in my neighborhood is there was a lot of utility pole work being done. And a police officer knocked on my door the day that it was happening in my neighborhood and said, your power is going to be out in about 20 minutes for about 3 hours. So like, I didn't have much notice of that. And I'm guessing that the emails the council has received on that are similar. I don't know that for a fact, but if there's utility pole work being done in the area and there are elderly folks who rely on, air conditioning and such in their homes, I think the idea was, that they need to be given more notice than that. And so the question that came to us was, what can be done to make sure that they're kept safe?
And I'll just add to that, it may not be under your purview. It may be something that you could advocate for. I'm not sure, but wanted to make sure this has come to your attention and see if you've.
That was great, and I'm glad you clarified it. I thought people were having their utilities shut off for non-payment, and I thought I
No.
had heard nothing about this. However,
No.
I heard, I think probably when you did, and that happened with the utility companies, and I heard just about as much as you did about that some people had their doors knocked on, others did not, and definitely it impacts the most are, a senior or, somebody who is counting on, electricity for whatever the purposes would be. I have been in touch with, we made one call to the utility company, and I don't have that all figured out to say, just to answer that. But thank you.
Counselor Healy?
Yeah, I will say that did happen in Precinct 9 as well on Meadow Lane. My wife happened to be home that day. The officer and the utility went to every door on the street. If you answer, then they take it. But if you're elderly and you can't get off the couch, or you're sleeping, taking a nap, for instance, and you don't answer, you don't really have a say. But you do have the right to tell the utility, you cannot turn off my power. These are the reasons why, and they have to reschedule that outage. And the utility explained that to my wife because she jokingly said, "What if I say no?" He said, "Well, just come back at midnight and do it." So there are options there, and the utilities have to follow the DPU requirements for notification. So if there is a concern, I would recommend reaching out to the Department of Public Utilities. They're the ones that are going to handle that, and not the city. We have no control over what the utilities do with our lines. The work taking place was for GSET, which is good progress. I believe we saw the update from John Lunt, everybody, so that's positive news for a lot of people, but the way it happened wasn't so great. So formal complaints should be probably written to the DPU and go from there.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who had questions? Yes, Counselor Garrett.
So I just wanted to say, I really appreciate the Walk in the Park initiative you've taken, and I think, any sort of communication between the citizens and the mayor is fabulous, so I want to just thank you for that. So that's a wonderful thing. I had two questions that may or may not have information available on them. The first one is about the Hope Street lot, and I know there was talk about doing an engineering study on it. I'd be curious on where that sits. And the second one, because I'm just also very curious about this, is the Poet Seat Tower sandblasting, where that sits and kind of the progress. I know as a body we've talked about how to prevent it from happening again, and for some reason I keep thinking about it.
So sandblasting has not happened yet. There are other things that we were looking at in line with that you'd all talked about. It would be a good idea to know what was happening so that the sandblasting did not happen, and then just making another canvas ready. So we were looking at other alternatives, like whether There's no electricity, I don't think, up there, so we actually were talking about cameras. And what was the one that you just said before that?
About the Hope Street lot.
Oh,
Any
Hope
en-
Street.
There's an engineering study, right?
Yes, so there was a feasibility study. I think everything seems to start with a feasibility study. You don't do anything until you get a feasibility study done. Who knew? And that's in process. I just found that very interesting myself, that everything seems to start with a feasibility study, whether or not you're doing it. So that is happening. And, you know, they're looking at feasibility to see if housing could go there, which that's actually what I hope will happen. And then somebody has to be, if that's feasible, somebody has to be interested in doing it. And could I just say I learned a lot about the Department of Public Utilities from you, which you seem to know a lot about a whole lot of things. That was very helpful, because I didn't know how that actually worked, that somebody could say no and then they couldn't do that. Thank you. That was great.
I wanted to chime in quickly on that utility piece as well. All of these utilities have designated folks who usually do government affairs or connect with municipalities, so we will work to try to identify who that is and see if we can get even more of a heads up of what's happening and when it's happening.
All right, was there anybody else who had a question? Okay, I had one very quick, easy question, but when you were saying the name of the new finance director, I don't know if I spaced her or if you just spoke too quickly, but could you repeat their name, please?
Stella Chan.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So now we're going to welcome Police Chief Dodge.
Good afternoon, everybody. As part of an ongoing attempt to put faces to names within our department, I think it's a good idea. I don't want to keep them all to myself. We just recently did some hiring, and we want to introduce them to you. So we're going to start with our dispatcher. We actually hired a full-time and a part-time dispatcher. Our new full-time dispatcher is here. So Cindy, if you could come up and introduce her, please.
Good evening. I am Cindy Hunter. I am the dispatch supervisor for Greenfield Police and Fire Dispatch. So as the chief said, we did hire someone new recently. She has not yet started. She'll be starting on the 29th. So if you could introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lyudmila Shostakova. You can call me Luda for short.
And can you tell us maybe just a little bit about your background and your experience?
Yeah, I have actually zero experience in dispatching, but I'm coming from Next Technologies as a quality engineer.
And are you continuing your education?
Yes, I am. So I do have my engineering degree, but I'm also going to UMass currently for my bachelor's in operation and information management.
Thank you. And also, unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight, but we do have another trainee that we have hired. She's actually going to be per diem. Her name is Madison Gorell. She actually came to us from Smith Vocational High School. She just graduated, so she's very young. However, Smith Vocational has a new program geared towards public safety, and they do a variety of things, including police procedure. They do some of the fire department stuff. But two of the things that they do is they focus on dispatching for part of their training, but she came to us with two of the certifications that we require already. And so it saved us the cost of sending her to those trainings. And so she actually started this week, and so she's well on her way. She's actually going to be going to college full-time in the fall, so that was the reason why she wanted a part-time position, and so we're happy to have her. So.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any? Go ahead, Councilor Minas.
I would just like to say hi, Luda. How's it going?
Hi, good, thank you.
So I went to school with Luda. Luda is a hardworking immigrant like myself, and we went to school together, and she's honest, and glad you're working for the city. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind words.
Very nice.
Is there anybody else?
Welcome.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, welcome. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
You guys may have heard a little bit about a sign-on bonus going around. The next two are full-time police officer hires, both of whom qualify for the sign-on bonus because they are either full-time academy trained or waived. So essentially, we don't have to lose them for 6 months on full-time salary to send to an academy. They have already started. They started this week. And it's been orientational stuff. They'll go through probably upwards of about a 12-week field training, and then hopefully you'll see them out and about. So with that being said, Zoe Smith and Robert Johnson, come on up.
Thank you, Chief.
Turn that green.
Hello, everybody. I think I'll go first since the chief introduced me first. My name's Zoe Smith, she, they pronouns, and I am really excited to be here. As far as my background goes, it started in Greenfield. Circa 2004, I took the paramedic program at GCC and later transitioned to adjunct faculty in the same program, and then continued a career in EMS and public health, where I spent 10 years as the chief of South County EMS. At that same time, I've been a police officer in the town of Sunderland for 17 years. I have a bachelor's in Homeland Security, and I'm also a member of the Franklin County Regional Special Response Team for 5 years, both as a medic and as an operator. So my family just recently moved back to Greenfield at the beginning of the year. We're within walking distance of the new library and the YMCA, and we're raising a 2-year-old right now. So it feels really good to be welcomed back into the community. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And I'm Officer Robert Johnson. I just started this week, as the chief said. My background, I enlisted in the United States Army in 2014 while in high school. Started off infantry, then becoming a medic later in my career. I went to the police academy in 2019 in Worcester, Massachusetts. Started in a very small town in central Massachusetts. Left for opportunities in Western Mass at Springfield College, which is my most recent employment. While there, I became a first responder instructor, CPR instructor, health and wellness instructor, field training officer. I do crisis intervention and sexual assault investigations. I was very impressed with the community of Greenfield, and am close friends with the chief of Greenfield Community College, who recommended I check out Greenfield Police Department. I'm very excited to be a member of the team and to serve the community of Greenfield. And if anyone has any questions for me, I'm very open to them.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, go ahead. Councilor Tronzo.
I just wanted to say welcome, Zoe. I've met you a couple times down in Sunderland, and can I get that key back to the Sunderland senior living? No, I'm just joking. But no, you've been great. You've
that
been
was
great.
department property. I don't know what
You've been great. You've been great. Yeah, it's great. Welcome aboard. I'm glad to have you in Greenfield.
Thank you.
All right, well, we're not going to ask how you know the police so well. It sounds like, I'm just kidding. All right, Councilor Perry.
I just want to say welcome aboard. This is great. It's great to see new faces, energetic faces. You both already have the experience that you bring to this city, and it's just great to have you here. So welcome, and we'll see you around.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Well, thank you for coming and welcome, and it's good to see some new faces. And I do want to say to the chief that I'm very disappointed that we don't have dogs here today. But I am happy to see we have new hires.
July's a tough time. I don't think we have any around right now.
All right. Next.
I do have a comment for the chief, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
We had a down wire last night on Cypress Street.
You did?
We did, indeed. And I don't know who the officer was that sat in the road for hours and hours and hours so people would not actually drive over a live wire until sometime in the wee hours of the morning, the utility company finally showed up to take care of business. But he sat there for hours, and in my neighborhood, we all appreciate him because people were zooming down Cypress Street, driving over this live wire, and so we were all concerned, and thank them for me.
Did you bring them a coffee or anything like that?
I
or
did,
you
and I gave them whiskey.
Next time I'm taking Cypress Street. They're all good, I must say. I'm biased, but they're all really great officers. We've been getting a lot of really good reports. Patience, de-escalation is like we've never seen. So I'm really happy about where we are right now. As you can see, the new ones we're hiring their resumes are vast. They got a lot of experience in a lot of different areas, and they can only be like massive assets to us. So we do have one more that will be hired. We're taking applications right now. It's looking pretty good that we will also be able to get around, not making any promises because we got to interview them, but there are several on there that are already academy trained, so hopefully they're decent candidates. But again, it saves the city a ton of money every time we can hire somebody that doesn't require the academy. So, and again, you see the resumes, that's what we're looking for, so. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of a bunch of businesses on Main Street. We can already see the difference. You guys are starting to clean up Main Street. The drug dealing has gone down significantly, even in the last couple weeks. And individuals who would be engaged in such behavior have been put away. So we'd just like to thank you because of that. Families now feel comfortable enough to actually sit on the table that we have outside and have popsicles out there. That hasn't happened in over a year, so that's really nice to see kids actually use the space instead of drug dealers. So thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, and efforts will continue. We won't talk about all of them, but the mayor and I talk regularly about various plans for downtown. Obviously, the biggest one we're hoping for is to get the substation up and running. That's just runs into one snag after another, but I'm confident in the not too distant future it'll be up and running and we'll have people in there, both police and civilian. And again, it'll just extend outreach to those downtown. So.
Is there anyone else who had questions? No?
Have a good evening.
All right, thank you. All right, next we have our Recreation Director, Christy Moore.
Good evening. I'm Christy, your Recreation Director. I was asked to come tonight to present to you an update on the Highland Ridge Trail Marking and Mapping Project. I did set, I believe, on everyone's station. Yesterday, I was able to meet with the FERCog, who we've hired to do the mapping project for us. And I just want you to know Brian, who's our contact with the FERCog, he's the GIS and Trails guru. He's amazing. He has spent about 116 hours traversing all of our trails on the ridge. And we have a lot. We have a lot that are heavily used and a lot that some of our community members have created on their own. So he spent a lot of time GPS coordinating, going back and forth, getting every crisscross and intersection. And that's what you can see on the two maps. They are double-sided because we did the north and the south end. And yeah, so it's about 7.5 miles on each, the north side and the south side, but he has walked about 60 miles in creating these maps for us. And this is just a draft, because what we need to do now with the Rec Commission, there's a group of us who are working with this, is figuring out which trails we want to keep, how we're gonna label them, if there's any users that, like the mountain bikers use the trails a lot, but we might wanna have discussions if it's only certain trails that we want them to ride on. I need to meet with the conservation agent and see if there's any special restrictions that they want certainly with mountain biking. And then we also need to figure out how we are going to be marking these and like what the starting point is. I really want to have mileage on here, but we need to figure out if we're going to start from like the parking lot, if we're gonna start at the south end or the north end. And then we found out that there are 4 pieces of property that is privately owned, but for years, we've been using the trails that connect along the ridge. So I've reached out, and actually today I heard back from the land trust. So the land trust is the expert in creating easements and agreements with the private property owners. The person I need to speak with is on vacation, that's what they said today, so they won't be back until the 29th. But I need to get an estimate and advice on the best way to work through that for the city. I think it's important that we get a right-of-way. It's mostly on the north section, which would be on the back. Well, I'm not sure. It's the Poet Seat side. I'm not sure what's on the front for you guys. Up towards the Stone Lane Ridge property. That's where anything that's green on this map is city-owned. So the non-green northern section is where there's like 4 parcels up there that we need to figure out. And then there's also down by the Connecticut River, obviously we have I forget what it was called, First Light has property down there. They currently have signs to say that people can use those trails, but again, we don't have anything formalized about us having access to them. And then the Eversource has a right-of-way through our property, but we don't really have anything finalized with them either. So those are additional entities that we need to work through. Let's see, there's a few areas that you can see on the map that we put like the little camera, because it does have viewpoints, which I thought would be nice to put on the maps. And yeah, so there is progress. It's obviously not finalized by any means, because it's a lot of work to do this project. But I'm really excited. It's a project that I think is definitely needed. We have people that get lost out here frequently, even the locals, and any way that we can help our emergency personnel to respond to people who need help is really important. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Yes, Councilor Mastrosaro.
The right-of-way you referred to for Eversource, that's down where the hydro lines are, the power lines that come off, I think it's
Off of
Mountain Road that takes you into Montague City.
Yep. That is if you see on the map, the red dotted lines, that's the Eversource line.
You mean the Temple Woods side?
Yeah, everywhere that you see on the Temple Woods, it's down towards the bottom left. It's the dot in the red line. That's the Eversource power line. And it crosses Mountain Road.
Yes, Councilor Minas?
Maybe this is a weird question. So the signage and stuff that will be up, will that be like what will it look like? Like, will it be like illuminated signage, or like there will be like trail markers, or?
Did you say aluminum or illuminated?
Illuminated, like
yeah,
as.
they won't be lighted. If that's what you're saying. Yeah, no, it'll be like a standard trail marker.
Okay.
Right now, there's multiple different markings, and this is why it's so confusing on the trails. Some of the trails have colored blazes on the trees. The southern section, we actually have GPS markers. I think they're red, green, and blue, and it's all GPS coordinated, but we didn't get the northern section. Some of those have since been taken down. Then there's old trails in the Poet Seat northern section that are old, like routed out signs from the 80s. Half of them are also have fallen down. Some are up, some are colored. It's really a mess. And so this project is to uniform all the marking. We'll have kiosks at the key entry points. And I'll share here, my future goal is to have some sort of trailhead at the northern section here by Stone Ridge, because we don't have any city-owned parking there. There's a parcel of land that I keep talking to a real estate agent that I want to buy for a parking, but the price is way too high for certainly for my little department. So again, we constantly think about the future and how we can improve our city and our public parks and recreational space. So it hasn't been finalized, to answer your question, but it will be a combination of the kiosks, as we said in the capital request, as well as intersection markers, so that you know if you go to the left, if you happen to be on the blue trail, you have 3 miles. If you go to the right, it might be a red trail at 2. There's also conversations about naming the trails similar to the ski, like easy, intermediate, and hard. I'm not a skier, as you can tell, but the 3 different levels. So there's lots of questions that we still need to fine tune. But getting this was our key starting point. And he hiked for months out there.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Garrett.
I had a question about the right-of-way acquisition process. I noticed on I think it's the 3rd bullet point here, it mentions absolving landowners of liability. That sounds like it's a pretty good deal. I mean, that's obviously a benefit to them. Is there expected to be a financial cost with securing these rights away otherwise? Like, would you have to pay like a lease-style fee where you're paying like yearly to these property owners for access to their land? Or is it likely that they're just gonna be like, you know what? If somebody gets hurt, it's not on us, we're happy with it. Like, do you have a sense on how that's gonna go?
So that's why I need the guidance of the land trust, because it can go different ways. There's been times when the city would, or the town would buy the piece of land from the landowner, but a lot of times because of Massachusetts law that absolves them of the liability, they prefer just to give the access. This is with the meeting with the FERCog. Again, I need the experts, that is not me, with the land trust. So I'm waiting to get guidance from them and a cost, because obviously I would need to hire them to work with these landowners. And my hope is that they would continue to work with us, you know, because they've been here for years.
And then just 2 other really small things. I wonder about that plot of land you mentioned that's too expensive. It's on kind of High Street heading towards Stop. Yeah.
Yep.
I've noticed that one. It would be a perfect parking lot if there can be an easement on those northern kind of trails.
Yeah, I did look into grants too, but, because you can buy land with a land grant.
Yep.
But they want it, had to have direct access and a park impact, or it's for conservation, which obviously a parking lot is not gonna be for conservation. So it would have to be like CPA or capital, I think, to purchase that.
It'd be a great investment. And then the other one is on the Maple Street end of it. One of the things that's really wonderful, where the Post parking lot is, that road leading up is sidewalkless. And I wonder if there's any sort of ability to get grant funding to give pedestrian access to that really valuable resource. Because I think, you know, this whole ridge system is one of our kind of sweet spots as a city. It's really, really unusual to have like a substantial access to nature like we do. So anything we can do to get this, you know, easily connected to downtown so people can walk and not drive or safely bike would be fabulous.
Yeah, we certainly can look in, I'll speak with DPW about sidewalk enhancement there.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Golub.
I just want to say this is really exciting to see. I'm a little bit jealous of the person who walked the 60 miles and mapped this, although I do not have the skill. Just a couple of questions. One is, do you have any sense of the timing for when we will be seeing markers or any sense of that? And are there any financial requests that you think that we should be anticipating for the project going forward?
Sure. Well, we did extend the FERCog contract. It did expire in June, but we extended it to December to finish like the mapping pieces. And then depends on the land trust. I do have the 50,000, and actually I forgot to mention that. I think that was my first bullet. The contract with FERCog was the 15,000, and we've only paid like 10 and change to them. So I have money left, and then we can hire the land trust to do that work. And then we need to implement and figure out what the costs are gonna be for all these trail markers and hire somebody to do it, because I don't have the time to go out here. I haven't, I'm the recreation director. I'm embarrassed to say this, but I have not been on every single one of these trails because I don't have the time either. So then we just need to find somebody or group of volunteers or whatnot. We'll figure out how to implement all this stuff. So we don't have all the funding for all the markers and all the kiosks. As you guys, I think, voted last month, I think it was like 23 and change for CPC money to help with this project. So once I get all that together and get a final cost for all these markers, then we'll know. But it probably will be a little bit more. And I think I answered your first question too, right? Yes. Okay. Oh, timing. Yeah, so I would love to have it done in a year, but it all depends on if I have to bid out and hire a contract to do all this work. And then we have to do the permitting with conservation and the state. And I can tell you that the permitting just for the this year's, well, actually it was last year's CPC to do the trail repair work at Highland has taken an exorbitant amount of time. I still don't have all the approvals for that. I still need the state approval. The local approval is clear, but it, as the mayor had said about all these other processes, like this just takes forever to get approval. So I have to do all that for this project as well, and that is months of approval. So maybe a year, maybe a year and a half. Mhm.
Is there anybody else? All right, thank you. Okay, next we have, what time is it? We have public comment. And we're going to hear from Pamela Goodwin.
Good evening, counselors. My name is Pamela Goodwin. I live at 54 High Street, apartment 307. I always start off by thanking you for all your hard work, because I don't see you as much, but I do watch as much as I have time for on YouTube. It's an immense amount of dedication that you all have serving your community. I try to go to a lot of things in person, but I'm caught up in a presidential campaign, so it's taken a tremendous amount of my personal time. However, I am concerned about some of the things going on at the Zoning Board of Appeals. I know there's issues with the CSO and the one Arch Street. I have attended 2 out of the 3 hearings. I do support what's going on with Stephanie Duclos and Ryan Whitney, and also some of the other abutters. I will say that I happen to believe that the abutters were not properly notified, and that concerns me, because I was always notified when I had an abutter issue when I owned my house in Shelburne Falls. When people say that you're just supposed to get on a website and check and see what's going on, and they call that good, I am adamantly opposed to that. I believe there may be even an attempt to revise an ordinance, which I think requires you people to get involved, because I think it's unfair when people are discounted and they have some very serious concerns. Also, out of that, or out of something, I'm hoping that the woman who had an issue, and she's not the only one that has an issue with breathing in a residential area, some toxic fumes. I believe that now that people have to rethink when a permit is given by the planning board, then people have to follow that design and can't just decide to go and do something else that affects the people in the residential area. So I'm hoping that some good will come out of people looking a lot more closely at what's going on the planning board. And I know those people also dedicate their time and work hard. And I know that people on the planning board also are trying to do their best. But I think there has to be a remedy that comes down the pike on at least those 2 things. And I've talked about that before, like Yankee Candle couldn't stink up the whole entire South Deerfield area the way they did. And they had to come up with a plan where the fumes from all of those things didn't bother everybody that was trying to barbecue or be in their backyard. So remedies are out there, whatever it has to cost. I want to say kudos to all the hardworking people that have dedicated their things. I think especially the mayor has done an excellent job. I know personally I'm grateful for a new fire chief. I'm grateful for all the things. I did one of the 27 that I walked with the mayor, and I tried not to talk to her because I can have access to that woman once in a while. So there's lots of good things going on, and I hope that the community in general appreciates all the good things going on. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Wendy Goodman, and she is online with us tonight.
Hi, let me take my hair down. I want to first thank you all. I continue to be
I'm sorry,
amazed.
Wendy, I'm going to cut you off real quick. But we need your
529
name
Green
and your
River
address.
529 Green River Road, Wendy Goodman.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My apologies. Again, I just want to really thank you all and acknowledge the commitment, the way that you're all looking to do the job. So just that, I felt like I needed to say something, and I don't know that it's like within the rules or whatever, but it is me in response to the meeting we had Monday night and what was in the paper today, because what we really wanted to talk about was not demanding service net, but was talking about having a liaison to the new arrivals in our Haitian community, because people are starting to find places to live, they're working, their kids are in school. And so we're looking to see how we can help integrate people into the community because people have not been able to find a way in. So I guess I just wanted to publicly kind of orient that. That was the purpose. There was a lot of talk about what's happening with ServiceNet, and that's a piece of it. But in terms of our community, we have the opportunity, as Pam Adams and Amy McMahon have done so amazingly, to have community involvement in inviting people here. And I'm another resource, and this is another way to do it, because I talk to so many people that say, I'd love to help, what can I do? So so that's all. I just wanted to kind of give you that side of the perspective, because somehow it feels like that got lost. All right. Again, thank you all for all your work. Thank you for taking the time now and then, and we'll see where it all goes. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the only two speakers that we had signed up for public comment, and I don't see anyone else rushing the stage. So we're going to move on to public hearings and second readings, which we don't have, and then we're going to move on to motions, orders, and resolutions. So starting over on page 4. Am I right? This is page 4 we're going to? Yeah. And it's Councilor Golub. I'm sorry, page 19.
Order number fiscal year 25001, the City Council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council pursuant to Charter Section 210 affirms the following appointment by the mayor to the Board of Health. Ahmed S. Fahani for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2027, majority vote required.
Can I get a report from the committee, please? Oh, I'm sorry, can I get a second?
Second.
And then a report from the committee, please.
It was positive unanimous.
Great. Are there any questions, comments? None? Okay, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Councillor Golub?
Yes.
Councillor Gordon?
Yes.
Councillor Mestre-Totaro?
Yes.
Councillor Perry?
Yes.
Councillor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Councillor Healy?
Yes.
Councillor Garrett?
Yes.
Councillor Minhas?
Yes.
Councillor Ricketts? Councillor Ricketts, we cannot hear you.
It does.
Oh, yes. You must have muted it. Yep.
Councillor Toronzo?
Yep.
Does the Vice President wish to vote?
Yes, and yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, next is also Counselor Golub.
So this is on page 22.
Yes.
Okay. Order number fiscal year 24049. The City Council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council amend the code of the City of Greenfield, Chapter 110, Capital Improvement Planning Committee, Section 1, Appointment Membership, as indicated below, with strike-through text to be removed and bold text to be added. And I'll just share that when I read it, so the strike-through text, when you see something like this, the strike-through text is text that is being proposed to be removed. Bolded text is text that's proposed to be added. And I'm going to read it without the strike-through and with the bold. So Chapter 110, Capital Improvement Planning Committee, 110-1, Appointment Membership. A committee to be known as the Capital Improvement Planning Committee will be established for 1-year terms by February 1st of each year, composed of 1 member of the Planning and Construction Committee, the Ways and Means Chair or their designee, the School Committee Chair or their designee, an appointee of the City Council and appointee of the Mayor. The town accountant and/or the Director of Municipal Finance and Administration shall be an ex officio staff member without the right to vote. The committee shall choose its own officers, and further amends the index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the City of Greenfield, majority vote required.
Second.
Thank you.
This,
Yes.
okay. This received a positive unanimous recommendation, and I can share the history of this if that would be helpful. Would that be good?
Yeah, let's get a brief history on it, and then we'll open it up to questions and
Yep.
comments.
Okay, the other thing I'll say is, as I read this, I realized, so there were parentheses. Those will be taken out of the final version, and those are changed pieces. So what this does is that whereas before the Capital Improvement Planning Committee makes recommendations for the capital plan for the next 5 years at the beginning of our budget cycle. And previously, before this proposal or until now, that committee has been comprised of 3 members, someone from planning and construction, 1 member of Ways and Means, and then a designee of the superintendent. This changes it so that committee includes the planning and construction committee, the Ways and Means chair or their designee, the school committee chair or their designee, and an appointee from city council and an appointee from the mayor. And we spoke about this a few months ago. This came through A&O and then came here, and there was a concern that that the appointee from the mayor would have to go through the typical approval process that they typically have to go through, that appointees to boards and commissions have to go through. And I wasn't able to cite why I knew that wasn't the case, so I said, let's send it back to A&O. I rechecked it with the clerk. This committee is different than most committees. It doesn't need, because it's not created, because it's created by the code and not by the charter, the mayoral appointee will not be subject to our approval, and so they can just, we will need to appoint someone in January, and the mayor will need to appoint someone in January to be ready for February 1st. That's what I've got.
Yes, Councilor Mastrotaro.
Yeah, I would like to revisit this because reading this as it's written appears that this was the original text, but there's a portion of this that's not in bold. So when we went over it in A&O, I had assumed that this was the original text that we were to amend from, but there's a portion of this that's not the original text. And because it's not in bold, it got by me. The appointee of city council and the appointee of the mayor. So rather than hashing that out here, I would like to revisit this at A&O. If we could send this back to A&O and hash it out, because I assumed, unless I missed something a few meetings ago, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but the way this is written, this is added text to the document, whereas the original text does not have that. And it looks like that's the original because it wasn't put in bold print. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm going to let you answer, and then Counselor Healy is next. Okay.
I'm not sure. The layout came from the clerk, and we've discussed it twice in A&O, and I've explained this twice in A&O, so I'm not sure what other, if you disagree with the changes, that's one thing, but I'm not sure what other discussion would happen in A&O, because you've asked the questions and we've discussed it. The formatting comes from the clerk's office, and so I don't know that it's worth it to send it back to A&O, because we've had this discussion a couple times, but I'm not sure what, I'm not the president.
Like I said,
so.
I assumed, which is my bad, I suppose, because this is the first time I'm reading the original, what's existing in charter. This is whereas this has changes, but some of the changes are not in bold, which represents changes, right? Additions, as opposed to if you're omitting something, it's a strike through. If it's something new, it's written in bold. This is not written in bold, and I would like to discuss that, and I don't know if it's worth taking up the time here in a full council meeting. So,
All right, so I had Counselor Healy next.
I just have one question in regards to the council appointee. Who makes that determination? Is it the president of the council? Is it the mayor? Because it's not really spelled out in that. So I was just wondering if we wanted to add, as designated by the president or the council president, or are we voting on that as a council? Who's going to that? How's that going to work?
I'll just say that anytime there's a council appointee, it's the president unless it's, otherwise specified. Counselor Minos, did you have a question or a comment?
I'm just a little confused as to what you're referring to, Michael. Maybe I'm just, because this has come up like a few times within A&O. I thought we discussed it in detail.
What we discussed was the way this is written, it appears as if.
Which specific actual language is new to you, or are you confused about? Because that's what I'm
not confused as much as I think, I was under the assumption that the appointee of the council and the appointee of the mayor was existing text, because it's not shown as additional text in this amendment. And, sorry?
I was saying the bold text is added.
Right, the bold text is added, and that's not in bold text. And as such, I don't know if I want to vote on this the way it's put forth. So I would like to rehash it, and I don't know if I want to rehash it here tonight at City Council.
Okay, I had Counselor Gordon, and then I had Counselor Ricketts. Was there anyone else that was trying to raise their hand? Well, okay.
Yeah, I will just say to clarify, I think that the bold text formatting piece, that may be something that was done for tonight. On page 23, we have the language that we considered on February 8th. Or that was submitted by Councilor Golub on February 8th that we then considered in A&O, and there's actually no bold text in that one, and all of the additional text was what was in parentheses. And that's what I recall us discussing at A&O. Personally, I would be happy to move ahead and vote on this. I think that we have discussed it multiple times, and my recollection is that it was clear enough to A&O, you know, what was the new text and what text was being taken out. So just to clarify, I think that the bolding is a more recent thing, I think, but what A&O considered was the text where everything within parentheses was new.
Thank you. Councilor Ricketts?
Yes, thank you. I agree with Councilor Gordon, and I would not like it to go back to A&O because we've already done it multiple times. But I'm wondering, for Councilor Massaterio, would it be easier for you to make a friendly amendment of what you would like to see bold, and then we could vote from there?
Oh, she called you by name, so
Okay.
you have, yeah.
Well, there's a couple of things at play. But the timing of this, when it has to go into effect, particularly on an election year, it's hard enough to get volunteers on these committees. I don't see why we can't leave it as is with, well, I don't understand why we need 2 more appointees on this. So we can leave it the way it is, and I'll vote the way I want, but I think Ways and Means, the school committee, and the Planning and Structure Committee is, adequate for this, and especially with the budget timing, to have 1 month to do this and find people to get on this committee, particularly if it's an election year, I don't think it's necessary to have 2 additional people on that committee.
All right, Councilor Golub, and then, are you raising your hand or, oh, okay.
Thank you. Well, I can address the question of why I put this forward. This committee is advisory, so it doesn't have a voting. It does not have a decision-making power. But our capital expenditures are incredibly important, and I worked with the mayor after coming out of the Ways and Means process last year, discussing how to make the process more representative of the community and have more voices involved in giving feedback to this and having a more participatory process. Our capital decisions are very, very important, and so this was something that we had agreed would be an important step to have these decisions be well advised.
Now are you raising, okay, Councilor Gordon.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I think the rationale that I recall that made a lot of sense to me was, the city council and the mayor are both elected positions, right? So they elect us, and then we appoint this person, so there's a more representative process involved in getting more folks onto the committee, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Councilor Toronto?
I'm kind of on the fence on this one, because I'll say, while I agree with certain points of why to add certain folks to the committee, having been on it, I agree with getting somebody in a time crunch, especially on a change of folks here on the council. We already have to reorganize in January. Already have a hard enough time. We got to assign new chairs. We got to assign committee members, and then we're asking, essentially, I won't say that our appointee of the city council will, as you mentioned, Vice President, is essentially an appointee of the new president as of January 1st of that year, and trying to get people to, as far as that position, or from the mayor's position, if it's a new mayor on January 1, trying to find folks to, like, when is that appointment made? At the first city council meeting in January? When does the mayor make the appointment? That now this is going to be an established committee by February 1st. So logistically, those are my concerns with that. Also, a friendly amendment I would make to this is that we name this the city accountant, since we are a city and not a town, as we've done with a lot of our language across the board. On a different level, I've said this in different manners before at whether it's Ways and Means or full city council meetings, and I know that some people really hate when I say things like this, but I understand the idea of more public participation in our boards and in our committees and in these things, and I love the committees that we have, and we have avenues for those. I think we need to stop getting into the weeds of every decision that's made in the city. It's like everybody gets a voice. We don't have town meetings because we're not a town, and we don't have people coming and holding up a paddle when they're voting for something because you're voting because you showed up that day. If people want to show up and have a voice, they have opportunities. We have plenty of opportunities for people to have voices, and I'm sorry, personally, I tire of hearing that we don't have a public process when we have one. We have a lack of public participation. For one reason or another, it doesn't matter. We have the avenues to do it, and people aren't doing it. That's not on us to continue to try to find these extra straws to grasp at to give people another avenue and another avenue, another avenue. Because look at the audience tonight. There are two people here. Like, this is what I mean. Like, if people aren't engaged, they're not engaged. And I think fiddling with language or these small things, thinking that somehow we're going to get this huge boon of public participation, I think it's just spinning our wheels. It's just not going to happen. But that's just me.
Councilor Perry?
I'd just like to add that in theory, the committee is going to know in an election year in November, the committee is going to be meeting in November, December. The committee is going to know that they're going to have to replace someone on the committee in that January 1st. And so hopefully the committee will be working on those issues and dialoguing with incoming councilors and incoming mayor to get that, so it's already in process by the time January rolls around and the committee and the council is appointing people, and they'll have that on the agenda that month.
These are also one-year established terms. I just wanted to point that out. These are 1 year. So everybody that's on that committee is not guaranteed to be there next year.
I appreciate that, but I had not recognized you yet. Councilor Minhas?
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with that because I feel like they're. So even though you would be replaced, so the whole committee is replaced every year? Okay. But the committee knows that right beforehand. It's not like, oh, day of January, they realize, oh, whoops, I didn't know. So they would plan to have this on the agenda and have the appropriate parties, whether that be, the next mayor or the next city councilors or existing councilors who, whose term is still continuing into the following year, they would communicate with them, right? I thought we had discussed this already. I'm fine with moving forward and voting on it, or if someone has an amendment, feel free to propose an amendment.
Yeah, you read my mind. I was about to disrupt the discussion and say, I'm not hearing an actual motion to send this back to committee. I am hearing a lot of discussion, and I'm hearing a lot of what sounds like maybe motions to amend. And I'm going to say, if you want to make a motion to make an amendment, that's what we're here to do. So feel free, and all you have to do is say, I move that, and then we can start talking about how we would improve this.
Because we're already having the discussion. Let's just, if you want to make an amendment, go ahead.
So let's formalize it. We'll tighten things up here. Next, I had Councilor Toronzo, and now that we're talking this way, I expect to see more hands, right?
I just wanted to clarify, the committee doesn't meet after the first part of the year. So as far as like, if you were thinking like the capital improvement committee can plan for this, they can't. Your job's done. I was on the capital improvement committee. I'm technically still on that, I guess, for the rest of this year, but I'm not doing anything with it because we don't talk about it anymore. We talk about it when it comes up to give recommendations in February or March, as it would be probably meeting February-ish, March. And then I haven't seen any of them since, because the committee job is done at that point. So I don't know if I will be on that committee next year right now, and I won't know that in December or January. I'll know, I guess, by February 1st. Same thing with whoever is the designee of planning and instruction. It was Jean Wall this year. I don't know if she's going to be the person next year, neither does she. And neither does whatever the school committee's designee is, because that school committee changed as well. So the designee from that is no longer on the school committee right now, for example. So they would have to appoint someone at whatever date they fit. There's no distinction on when they fill that or when they make that designation. It's just this is saying the committee will be established for a one-year term by February 1st. So we know school committee has until then to name somebody. Planning and construction would have that time. And Ways and Means chair their designee, but we reorganize every year. So we don't even know who the chair or the members of Ways and Means are until we have our reorganization, which I think a lot of us find out probably mid-month what committees we're on. And that was where I was saying the timeline crunch already is for this type of committee. I agree that this is the substantive change that I see with this is kind of what we had already instilled this past year, is not having the capital improvement committee meet or be organized until after January 1st, because you were having before, they were discussing things in December with people who might be outgoing. So now you have a committee that just discussed all of the capital for the city and gave recommendations, and then when it comes to, they may all be gone by the time it comes up at Ways and Means and at full city council, and you can't even go to them to ask like, hey, what were your recommendations? Because they might all be gone. They're not on the committee anymore, they're done. So that was the logistical part of that as well. But I just wanted to clarify that. This committee doesn't regularly meet. There's no scheduled meetings. There's a couple to go over the capital projects at the beginning of the year, and then it's essentially dissolved.
Okay, so I think I saw Councilor Golub first, then Councilor Wondolowski, and then Councilor Perry. Does that sound right to everybody? Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to clarify a couple of things. It is true what Councilor Toronzo said. It is true that this is for one-year terms, and also the people don't need to change every year. They could be the same appointee from the council or the mayor. And it is true that this committee really only meets at the beginning of the month. And it is also true that these appointees from the council and from the mayor don't, like Councilor Gilmore said, they don't need to go through, the president will appoint the person. It doesn't need to go through a vote. And so it will be on the council president and the mayor to think about this as they come in to appoint the new people. And I'll say that I've heard the challenge is when there's an incoming mayor, what happens then? And I'll say that this was language that, again, that the mayor and I worked on. I don't want to speak for her, but she spoke earlier in the year about this, and she's like, yeah, people will need to think about this. There will need to be some thought, but it is completely possible. And this is a change that she would have wanted to have seen.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So as I'm hearing, it's really a very small change. We're adding 2 people to a committee, and it just feels like we're overcomplicating this a little bit. is there anything that precludes the group, if they wanted to meet in December and say, like, who do we want to be on, and who should we talk to the mayor about? Or who should we talk to the city council president about being on the committee? So, that's all I have to say. We're getting way into the weeds. It's just adding 2 people.
Okay. So next I had Counselor Perry and then Counselor Healy, but I'm going to suggest, was this from our parliamentarian? All right, one of his last acts passed me a note asking if it would make sense. Oh, well, that's going to be the encore. So I got a note here asking if it would make sense to ask for a motion to rethink the appointment process and add staggered terms, which perhaps the council president makes this appointment in June, and that gives everybody 6 months go around. If someone wants to make a motion to that effect. But I had Counselor Perry, then Counselor Healy.
I just wanted to ask the question. I am assuming the February 1st date came from an earlier discussion here about trying to move the process up. So that's where the February 1st date came from. But it's not necessarily carved in stone.
So I'm going to open it up again. I mean, it is by February 1st of each year. And so, and they would have to be appointed by the new council president and mayor. And so, yes, the current language only does give 1 month. It does give 1 month. And we moved it to February 1st as opposed to the previous year because previously, the old Ways and Means chair of the previous year was on this, and we didn't think that that was appropriate. And so my concern about the June 1st thing, I appreciate that, but if we're wanting the current chairs, the school committee chair and the Ways and Means chair, to be the people who are on this, we don't know who they are until January 1st. So there is a time crunch. Like, there is a time crunch, but I don't know. Yeah, there is a little bit of time crunch, and I also trust that the council president and the mayor will be able to do this.
Can I just I just want to clarify, and I'm sorry to interrupt the speaking order, but to clarify the answer I thought you were giving Counselor Perry.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the president making an appointment, are you talking about a city councilor? Because I was under the impression we were talking about a citizen.
That is true. So there's 2 things. The city council president will need to make an appointee. I guess it could, I'm thinking out loud right now, and because there's 2 different concerns. There's, I'm thinking out loud, because I hadn't considered that idea. If they're appointed in June of the previous year, my concern, it could be the previous mayor, right? If the new administration comes in or a new council president is selected, the previous people could be appointing these appointees, but I'm not sure that that's ideal. And again, I think this is very simple, and we've talked about it several times, but.
Right. No, I had Counselor Healy next, and then Counselor Meehan.
I think it's a great idea, first of all. I think we are spending a lot of time on this, and I think there are ways in the future to change this if we need to, if it doesn't work, right? So I think it's a step in the right direction that we should take. And if we see it doesn't work, then maybe we could sit at A&O and figure out a way to make it work more efficiently down the road. But right now, let's just get it done.
Was that a motion to call the question?
Yeah, let's call the question. Motion to call the question.
Is there a second? Okay, this one's non-debatable, so if I could get a roll call, and this is a motion whether or not to call the question. We're not asking you to vote yes or no on the question.
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Mestre Tataro.
Yes.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski.
Yes.
Counselor Healy.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
Counselor Minhas.
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts.
Yes?
Counselor Toronto.
Yep.
Does the Vice President wish to vote?
Yes and yes. Okay, the question has been called. Now I'm asking you, yes, do we want to pass this change, or no, do we want to vote it down? And if we could get another roll call, please.
Counselor Golub.
Yes.
Counselor Gordon.
Yes.
Counselor Mestre Tataro.
Nope.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski.
Yes.
Counselor Healy.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
Counselor Minhas.
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts.
Yes?
Counselor Toronto.
Nope.
Does the Vice President wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, where are we now? Amend rules of We're here, right? Okay. So now we're on page 25, and this is Counselor Golub again. This one came out of A&O, right?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, if you could read that, please.
Sure. Order number fiscal year 25002. The City Council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council votes to amend the City Council Rules of Procedure 5652, Rule 2, Meetings, Section E, Attendance, by adding new paragraph 1 as follows. 5652, Rule 2, Meetings, E, Attendance. Any member missing 10 or more unexcused council or committee meetings, or a combination thereof, within a fiscal year, shall be subject to disclosure by the City Council President at a regular council meeting. 1, in the event, and this is the added language. 1, in the event a councilor is unable to attend a council or committee meeting, you must notify the President and Vice President of the Council, Committee Chair, City Clerk, Assistant City Clerk, and Administrative Assistant to the Council as soon as possible to allow other arrangements to be made in a timely manner. Majority vote required.
Second?
And this received a unanimous positive vote. There was one question that I'm hoping the clerk can answer. This, I believe, came from the clerk's office. Well, I think that then I'm wondering if that's accurate, but the question was the administrative assistant to the council. We imagined it was one of you, but we wanted to clarify that.
That would be the Administrative Assistant, Tammy Marcial.
Okay, great.
All right, any comments or questions, discussion? All right, Counselor Garrett.
This is a very small thing, but I look at this list of like the number of people you're supposed to notify, and it gives me kind of like flashbacks to group text messages, which I know is a little unreasonable, but I don't know. And this is coming from the city clerk's office too, so I imagine it's a matter of just like keeping track of where everybody is, and that totally makes sense. So, you know, I don't know, just the mailing the city clerk, the assistant city clerk, the administrative assistant, it's not like you can't type a couple other keys, but do we need to do every single person? And I'm sure the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. And I
And,
will tell you, when you've been doing this long enough, and especially like once you serve as like a president or a vice president or a committee chair, you start to realize that everybody has to know, because believe it or not, Kathy Scott does actually get sick and does actually get paid time off.
I don't
And
believe it.
I don't necessarily have her schedule in front of me, so it's just a way to keep everybody notified so that we all know what's going on. Huh? Yes, please do.
So just for ease of sake, citycouncil@greenfield-ma.gov hits all three of us.
Even better. Let's see. Was there? Order. All right. I feel like people are ready to vote then. Am I reading the room? Okay. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
It would be my pleasure.
So.
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Mastrotaro?
Yep.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Counselor Healy?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett?
Yes, and thank you for the tip.
Counselor Minhas?
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts?
Yes?
Counselor Toronzo?
Yep.
And does the Vice President wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right. Presentation of petitions and similar papers. Don't see anybody. Report of committee. So A&O, we're going to get a report.
Yes. So this it's now on page 27 for folks who are on the computer. This draft proposal presented to the administrative assistant to the city council. We had thought, would you like me to, I don't need to read this whole thing, do I? Because
Oh, no, for this part. Yeah, so normally, like, a report from a subcommittee would just be like a 2 to 3 sentence blurb
Okay.
on what we've been working on.
Okay, so this came before us. We thought that we needed to vote on it. We unanimously approved it, but it turns out that we didn't need to vote on it. They just wanted to, the clerk's office wanted discussion. We support it. So
It's good
that's
to
the
know we're all
report.
on the same page.
Yeah.
All right. Any unfinished business? Old business? New business? Okay, I do have a first reading, and I see the word revenue, so I assume Councilor Toronzo is going to be reading to us.
I thought I was getting off
Nope.
easy.
Hope not.
Revoke the revenue dedication of Massachusetts State Subdivision for statewide opioid settlement funds to the Special Purpose Opioid Settlement Stabilization Fund.
Is there any other new business? Okay, so while we're under new business, I would like to thank our parliamentarian for his years of dedicated service, sitting there trying to act all shy and not making eye contact with me right now. But I have to say, when I was council president,
Yes.
I relied so heavily on your expertise and your patience and your ability to see through all the stuff without getting angry like all the city councilors were getting. So I want to thank you and wish you a wonderful retirement, and I'm
Thank
sad that
you.
you're leaving Greenfield.
You have no idea how often I sit here just so pissed off and can't say a word. You know, it's very,
You always smile.
very difficult. I want to say that it's been a pleasure working with this town. For many years. And I want to say that I think it's been 24 years since I was on the council, president of the council, and Bill Martin roped me into this. I never did forgive him. But I want to say this particular council right now is one of the most promising I've ever seen. And the thoughtfulness and the care and deliberation with which you give everything that comes in front of you, sometimes frustratingly so, I've appreciated and respect. That being said, we have always played fast and loose with parliamentary procedure. And I want to thank Councilor Golub for calling our attention to the last part of this book on disciplinary procedures, because everything you need is here to run an orderly and successful meeting. And I say that in context of, I know there's some talk about asking people to take an oath, which as a member of the public, as a parliamentarian, and as a former member of this body, I find is overstepping. I think that I've seen contentious counselors in the past, and I know it can be difficult, and I know at one time I was probably one of them. No, hell, I was. But you have all the processes here for handling it, and I would hope that you may lay off on that for a while and think about it, and think about you have the tool you need, and you have the will to put it into work. I do think I'm at fault from my time as president and my time on the council and my time as parliamentarian for letting parliamentary procedure be a little loose. You talk to one another instead of through the chair. You talk before you make a motion. And none of those things really should happen. But you managed to make it work anyway, so the hell with it. But trust yourselves, trust your judgment in understanding how this little Bible of parliamentary procedure works, and use it when you need it. And thank you very much for entrusting me with your counsel over all these years. Goodbye. I'm going to Dragon Hill.
Yes.
You know. Thank you.
I'm sure that President Bottomley is sad that he can't be here, because I know that he's been relying on your expertise also. So on behalf of President Bottomley, I'd also like to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're a great group. If I may,
Yes, please.
would you make a promise that you'd come back with your banjo?
You might regret that.
I wouldn't. You got 3 minutes.
All right, Counselor Ricketts.
Yes. So thank you very much, Will, for everything, for all your years of service. Will and I have known each other for years. I mean, he was my teacher in speech class at GCC. And every time I speak on council floor, I have to look at him and thank him for giving me that confidence to be able to do what I'm doing today. But I look at you whenever we are down in the weeds on any topic, and I know you want to jump in. I just want to thank you for everything you've done. You've done so much for Greenfield. I miss you already, and I love you very much. Thank you.
You too, Penny. And it was storytelling, not speech.
Storytelling, yes.
Counselors don't tell
Still have-
stories on council floor. And I am under the impression that the mayor also wants to say a few words, if I'm...
Yes, I don't think I can follow Penny. She said everything that I thought. We are so grateful for your service. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Jenny. Thanks to all of you.
All right. Motions for reconsideration. That doesn't feel right. Thank you again. So now moving on to motions for reconsideration. Does anyone want to reconsider their vote? You have to have voted on the prevailing side according to Robert's rules, which we have to memorize now, guys. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Can I just adjourn the meeting without taking a vote?
Yeah, I'm leaving, so yeah.
I hereby order. Okay, we have a counselor who left early.
Well, now we don't need to do a roll call, so.
If we can get a roll, oh, we don't have to do a roll call vote. All right. All in favor, shout.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? You don't get to vote. All right, this meeting is adjourned.